Shalom and welcome to another edition of Parsha Talk. I'm Rabbi Elliot Malamet in Highland Park, New Jersey, the Highland Park Conservative Temple Congregation on Shemet. Joining me, my good friends, Rabbi Barry Chesler, Solomon Schechter Day School of Long Island, Rabbi Jeremy Kalmanovsky, Anshe Chesed, New York City, fresh from a trip to Israel. Welcome back.
How did you guys survive without me last week?
We had Rabbi Eliezer Diamond, and he did a wonderful job, but we missed you, and we thank Rabbi Eliezer Diamond also. We have to note, of course, we're recording this on day 263 of the war and 263 of the hostages, as we pray every week and dedicate our Torah study to thinking about them and to thinking about their families and all those who are in anguish with them. And of course, on another note, we are also thinking about our good friends and colleagues at Camp Ramah in the Berkshires. Starting this week, the camp begins, Machane Ramah. Big shout out to a couple of people. First of all, thank you so much, Mitch Mernick, for putting us on Kol Ramah 102.3 FM.
102.3 FM.
We get to be once again the best Torah show in Dutchess County. Now that camp is back in session, they played our show from last week, and 2 weeks running, we are the best Parasha show in Dutchess County. Thank you very much. Big shout out to lots and lots of people there, lots of our good friends, and including Jeremy.
Shaiki, the last Kalmanovsky standing at Camp Ramah in the Berkshires.
We have a few people from Highland Park, New Jersey there. Big shout out to Highland Park, New Jersey. And we have Tommy Shemesh, good friend.
Tommy Shemesh.
Miriam Hertzen. Miriam is still there. And lots of other people who we want to share our Torah with this amazing Parsha Shlah. We're going to talk about Shlach Lekha. This is a moment, a real crisis moment, maybe catastrophic. Try and get into the story a little bit. The story is that the people have had their complaints that they started last week. Moses says at the beginning of our parsha here, so God says to Moses, Shlach lecha anashim, send men out to scout the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelite people. Ish echad, each single person from each of their tribes, their ancestral tribes, each one a chieftain among them. Right? Kol Nasi Bahem. And so we get a whole list of names, some interesting names, and names that will come up again, specifically Kalev ben Yefuneh and Hoshea ben Nun, Yoshua. And we've talked about the difference in the kinds of names. It's very interesting. But for the purposes of our conversation,
there's one tiny really Picayune note, but I noticed this morning in Laning, we're recording this on Monday, so we read the first Aliyah in Shul this morning, and the tribes of Ephraim and Menashe are both Joseph tribes.
That's right.
And
the trope is different, eh?
Well, so in verse 8 is L'matei Ephraim Hoshea ben Nun. He's the prince of the tribe of Ephraim. Good for him. But then in verse 11, it's L'matei Yosef L'matei Menashe Gadi ben Susi. Mm-hmm. So for the Joseph tribe, that is the tribe of Menashe. It's interesting to me. This is really small, but here in this list, Ephraim is listed independently, and Menashe is listed as the stand-in for Yosef, nice. Which is kind of interesting.
Very interesting. And
the names are so that they range from, like, we've been watching those names go by in the Naso passage and the Nasi of each tribe, and many of them are well-known names, and many of those names repeat that they also repeated back in Bamidbar when we first heard them. But these names are, with the exception of Yoshua and Kalev, these characters don't really show up again. But it's just interesting, like, these names don't, I think in general, have the ring of nobility that some of those other names, Gamli El Ben Peratzur, indeed God is mine, child of the one whom the rock has redeemed, is
right. But what's interesting about Gamliel's name is whenever I come across it in the Bible, I'm reminded that it's actually a biblical name because of the rabbinic names. It
Yeah.
actually sounds more rabbinic than biblical.
It does. But Gadi ben Susi
Yeah, you're not.
is what is that? I mean, okay, God means good fortune, so maybe it's my good fortune, son of my horse, but it looks a little bit like Gedi ben Susi, the lamb, son of the horse, and the other one is we had a Ben Gemali. We had somebody camel names. Like these names, I think there's Amiel Ben Gemali. Well, maybe Gemali is you have recompensed me, not Gamal camel, but whatever. These names just don't seem to have the
Right, but
who the
so
hell is Nachbi Ben Vovsi? We don't even who is that? What does that mean?
so what's interesting to me is that we have here 12 names. We have 12 names in the first chapter of Bimidbar as well. And the only two that repeat are Caleb and Hoshua. But these other 10 guys that I mentioned here, this is their moment to shine. And they're going to disappear from history. And the question is, how can they render an account for themselves? Right? I imagine when they take upon themselves this responsibility to go scout out the land, that they're doing it with some degree of brio, with some degree of excitement and confidence about the mission ahead. And it's a complete failure.
Well, why don't we get into that? So we'll skip over the passage with the charge that Moses gives them. See the land. It's a very thorough charge. Lots to say about that. Well, we'll pick it up with verse 22 or verse 21.
First of all,
Sorry,
our readers, our listeners out there, pause for 1 second. Go get yourself a Tanakh. If you don't,
really.
if you don't have, go get yourself a Bible, an Eitz Chaim or a JPS or any Bible that you like, or go into Sefaria.org and look up Numbers 13, verse 21.
You know what? I'll take it back to verse 20, okay? Because I wanted to mention this line here, which is the last thing he says, Moses, in this charge is Umaha Aretz Hashmenahi Imraza. Is the soil rich or poor? I'm reading the JPS translation. Is it wooded or not? Hayesh ba'etz imayin. And then he uses this word vehit chazaktem, which means strengthen yourselves. Okay, it seems to me the pshat of that, the simple, dictionary of vehit chazaktem is like, get a grip on yourself, strengthen yourselves, ulakachtem mipriya aretz, and take some of the fruit of the land. Vayamim yemei bikurim, we got a little timestamp here. Now it happened to be the season of it. Now, is it me or am I being too sensitive here? But if someone said, come on, pull up your socks, strengthen yourself, he translates it here, and take pains to bring back some of the fruit of the land. I'm sorry. I read this as like, you bunch of wimps, be strong, strengthen yourselves, right? And I'm not being condescending here, Moses is saying. You know what condescending means. Okay?
I think that this is the first indication that this mission is neither as clear nor as clean as it seems to be.
Okay.
Because they have to strengthen, because the thing that they would have to strengthen themselves is to take fruit from Bikurei Anavim. Now, we've all seen, I think, many of us certainly have seen grapes on the vine. No one thinks of that as a burdensome thing to do.
Right?
Of all the things you might think, v'hit chazaktem, to strengthen yourself, to take some clusters of grapes, doesn't quite seem to be the right.
So that's why
I'm going to go in a different direction on this one, though. I'm going to go in a different direction on this one. You guys are going to have to be strong, because do you think the owners of those vineyards are going to just let you have the Bikurei Anavim? You are going to have to be cattle rustlers or grape rustlers. You're going to have to go on what might be a conflictual or a dangerous mission. So I think that maybe this just means I want you to fearlessly go and steal some of the farmer's grapes.
So again, I just, this doesn't sit well, and I don't know what it is that is not sitting well with me. I don't like Moses saying this because it's demeaning. right? I'm getting the message here that my leader is being like the coach of the game and kind of smacking us, right? You guys can do it. Come on, you can do it. You can do it, right? Don't be wimps. Don't be little sissies out there. Go out, right? So yeah, that can be effective as a coaching mechanism until such point as you fail, right? And there's the moment here. There's this little seed of animosity, where the spies can go like, I don't know what he's saying. Okay, so let's leave it there, and go to the next one, which is Vayalu Vayatur Arts. They go, they scout the land from the wilderness of Zin to Rehov, the Levo Hamat. They went up the Negev. They came to Hebron. Where
By the
lived?
way, no, wait, just
Yeah,
hang
go.
on, hang on one second about this. If I'm not mistaken, first of all, this is one of those verses that in the what do you call it in the uh, like the so-called documentary hypothesis where you realize that there are some seams, not everything in the text fits so well, and maybe that suggests multiple source documents that were stitched together into the Torah that we have. Moses has told them in verse 17, Aluzeba Negev alitem et hahar. So Negev in the Bible doesn't mean that area around Beersheba so much that we think of as the Negev. It means the lower part of the Judean desert and into the hill country means the mountains that are the spine of what we today call the West Bank or Yehuda Shomron or whatever you say about it. So then, where do they go? They go from Midbar Tzin ad Rehov Lavo Hamat. Lavo Hamat is like the way
Way up.
northern part, way northern part, and that's verse
Serious.
21. And verse 22, it says Vayaluva Negev Vayabo ad Hebron. That verse 22 describes Moses' instruction, the Negev to the hill country. But verse 21, seemingly interpolated, has them going all the way up to almost to Damascus, which is another place. So like you it's almost like you have two different descriptions.
Okay. All right. So they cut down, they go all these places. I'm going to go to verse 23. They reach the Wadi Eshkol, where they cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes. It had to be borne on a carrying frame with two of them, and some pomegranates and figs, right? Verse 24, the place was named Wadi Eshkol, blah, blah, blah. 25, at the end of 40 days, they returned from scouting the land. They went straight to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran, and they made their report to them and to the whole community. And this is where it gets interesting. This is like there's a whole convening of the people, and now the report of the spies. Okay, they showed them the fruit of the land, and this is what they told them. Vayomru. Banu ele aretz asher shlachtanu. We came to the land you sent to us. It does indeed flow. It does indeed flow with milk and honey. Vegam zavat chalav udvashi. And this is the fruit. I love this. This is such a great moment. Oh, look at the beautiful fruit. Look at the grapes, the figs, the pomegranates, right? Efes ki azam hayoshev ba'aretz varim b'tzurot gdolot me'od.
So you
I
have
mean,
to
translate.
provide
However,
the
the people who inhabit the country are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. Moreover, we saw the Anakites there. Go ahead, Barry.
So the question though is, how are they saying this? Are they saying that we managed to get this fruit even though we saw giants? Or are they saying we barely escaped with our lives? We have a few grapes here to show you, but the concern shouldn't be with our few grapes. It should be with the people that we can't conquer.
So I'm going to give a sinister reading of this, which is that they're manipulating the audience. They don't really have the program worked out, but look at they lull them into this kind of, oh my goodness, this wonder, the beautiful. When was the last time an Egyptian slave saw a pomegranate? When they see us, when they what it's all in their imagination. Land flowing of milk and honey. Wow, oh wow, oh my goodness, oh goodness, and then collapse on this. The Anakites are there, giants are there, Amalek, this already not mythic people, But we've had bad experience with Amalek already. We've had terrible experience with Amalek. Amalek Yoshev Ba'aretz HaNegev. They dwell in the Negev. Hachiti, Hayivusi, Hayimuri Yoshev Bahar. All the other nations, they dwell in the mountain. Aknani Yoshev Alayam. The Canaanites are on the sea, Yad HaYarden, and at the Jordan. And that's where the people, and the next verse is, Vayahas Kalev Adam. It doesn't tell us that the people reacted with murmuring and yelling and screaming and wailing yet, but it tells us he shuts them.
It basically does
shut
tell
them
us
up.
that.
It
Does
says
tell us that.
where it says in the next verse, okay. But before we get the reaction, we get Kalev's saying no, stop.
So
And
that
I'm
effect,
saying,
just as a narrative tool, that effectively does convey the reaction. So
yes,
if one character says "stop crying," then you don't have to say the people were crying. You just
okay.
that Caleb.
So
You know.
what I want to say is that I'm trying to get in the story. Okay, this is my strategy. I'm in the story. I want to be one of those people listening to this report, and they lost me. They lose me, and I'm confused. I'm frustrated. I'm murmuring to my neighbor. I'm going like, what the hell's going on here? We're supposed to go to this land. We're supposed to be protected, and I'm afraid already. And I'm
So what is it that you think? Let's let's say that in this first part, the spies rather, not slaves, spies have done nothing other than tell the painful truth. Okay, the painful truth is that the land we've always dreamed about is just, it's at hand, and it is everything we ever dreamed of and more. There's only one problem. It's going to involve a very, very serious military challenge. They're not going to just give it to us. And you can filter this through any contemporary story that you might want to. They're not just going to give it to us. We're going to have to have a confrontation if it's going to become, if God's going to return us to the land of our ancestors. So far, the spies maybe haven't said anything false. They've just like face the truth. So why, you asked us before we started recording, and I know you've thought a lot about this, like, why? Are they purely negative, or do they have their own plan B?
So I don't know if they have a plan B, and this is what's frustrating about it. And I want to say this is the catastrophe of choosing the wrong people in leadership. Okay, without making any kinds of comparisons or anything, political or contemporary. Okay, but it's been a truism that I've learned through my mature life. The wrong people in leadership have catastrophic consequences, whether you're a chairman of a committee or whether you're a president of a organization, a CEO, or Leila Uleila, okay? The wrong people in leadership have catastrophic consequences. And here he chose anashim, he chose people, and he chose the wrong people. Because two of those 12 people say exactly what you said, Jeremy, which is, look, it's going to be tough, but we can do it. We can do it, right? You didn't get 12 people to say that. You got 2 people out of 12 to say that. 10 say, it's just, horrible. And you would think that Moses would have done a little bit of drisha and chakir. He would have done a little bit of, vetting. He would vet these people and say, listen, you with me? Like
I'm interviewing. I'm on the short list to be Secretary of Commerce here. I need to know that you're
I
gonna.
need to know you're with me or you're not with me. You believe in the program or you don't, but like, are you disposed positively to the project?
So why do you think he did not send the tribal princes?
Because they were too old. Here, this is the
Okay,
sermon.
so
Wait, let me give you the sermon, 2-second sermon, which is he wants the new generation to have a chance. That's the sermon.
But that seems a little bit backwards to me when we get to the end of the story, because the end of the story is that the people that were slaves have to die in the desert.
Right.
Not that they were too young, but they were too old.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So I don't know that it makes sense to think that these leaders are the new guys. They would seem to be the veterans.
But they may not be. The point that you're making is absolutely correct. How we filter it, I mean, we're of course not really told how old Gadi ben Susi and Michael ben Satur ben Michael and Nachbi ben Vavsi are. We're not really told, but
You really love
we're free to
saying that.
speculate. As long as we're free to speculate, we think that Moshe probably, maybe Gamliel ben Peratzur is like he's a zaken and he's going to sit and study Torah, but we're going to need somebody who has the strength in 40 days to walk, through the land. So probably pick some people with some physical prowess. And by the way, what we do know of Caleb and Yehoshua, they do just demonstrate military and physical prowess. Yeah. So, but what you're saying is quite correct. That the main takeaway is that the generation who did experience slaves needs to grow up, needs to die out, and some newer generation that hasn't experienced the whatever kinds of traumas and diminutions that slavery brought with it.
I'm saying these people, we don't know who these are. We don't know if they're old or they're young. We have no track record on them or anything. So I'm going to say they're untested. These are inexperienced people. They're inexperienced politically. They're inexperienced in public relations. What would they have, how would they have designated themselves? In other words, I'm going back to Moses. I'm going like, Moses, what were you thinking in choosing these people?
Well, it's so interesting that
Well, so this is a question. The way the frame of this story here in Bamidbar is that God tells Moses to get some men to go scout the land.
Anashim, men.
So I think we're led to believe, and perhaps you'll disagree with me, that the men that Moses chooses are ones that God approves. Right? I don't think God said, Moses, now it's up to you. You find some men, you'll send them out, and all will go well. I think the implication.
Shlach lecha, anashim. Shlach lecha to you. Shlach lecha. Right? I don't think there's no approval. There's no vetting of these people.
So how did he do it? He just said, help wanted.
No,
One man per tribe.
but they're described as Nasi Bahem, Kol Nasi Bahem. So this is the new chieftain. These are chieftains of the tribes. I guess we have dispensed of Nachshon ben Aminadav and Eliasaph ben Duel and all the people that we come to love because they brought all the gifts last week and 2 weeks ago, right? We now we have a ragamuffin band of people that.
So you want to blame Moses. So this is
Well,
Moses' failed leadership.
that is pretty interesting because I mean, I think this is it is it's not a run-of-the-mill reading that you're giving us here, that Moshe bears some real responsibility.
So I go back to Seinfeld made a beautiful statement when he won many Emmys. He says, I'm not a great actor, but I know how to find really good actors. Okay. And you know what's true about that? Everything. Okay. He has brilliant people around him. Okay. And that there's a talent for this. And maybe the talent is that Moshe knows how to choose a Yehoshua, maybe a Kalev, but he doesn't really know how to choose anybody else. And it's because he didn't choose them. They were chosen by their tribes. And people who are chosen by their tribes are chosen for all the stupid, petty political reasons that I'm speaking from New Jersey, okay? I live in New Jersey.
So Senator Menendez, you're talking about Senator Menendez.
I'm talking about every single person who held a county official seat. Let's not exaggerate, but there's so much corruption and so much petty politics, in terms of who gets to be, this representative and all that, and Moses doesn't get the veto of them, or Moses doesn't have the time to veto them, or Moses is not interested in vetoing, and maybe he's responsible. Yes, I'm going to go there.
Yeah, I think perhaps you're a little too harsh on Moshe.
I am.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, so we're moving on. All right, so he loses they have this big convening. The people freak out, okay, and they simply remind them. They hammer this home. The men who had gone up in the settlement on verse 31 already. We cannot attack that people, for it is stronger than we. Thus they spread calumnies among the Israelites about the land they had scouted. Vayotziu dibata aretz. The country that we have traversed and scouted is one that devours its settlers. All the people that we saw and are men of great size. We saw the Nephilim there, the Anakites are part of the Nephilim, and we look like grasshoppers for ourselves, and so we must have looked to them. And it just gets worse here, and it's a catastrophe. And so let me ask you this question. We have two major catastrophes in the Torah, the golden calf and this episode, okay? The golden calf, they worship the golden calf, the idol, there's a civil war, people get killed, and then there's a rupture and a repair. Here, there's this horrible catastrophic moment. The people complain, and God says, enough, and he doesn't kill the people, although these spies do not live out the Parsha. But is this worse?
Well, I think the difference is this. After the golden calf, the people that are directly implicated are the ones that are killed. But
people
here,
worshiping and the people committing all of their
the Ovdei Avodah Zarah, the people that are worshiping the golden calf. But here, the sin is not just borne by the tribes, it's borne by the entire people.
Yeah.
And the entire people is punished.
So at the golden calf, they're guilty of idolatry. I want to say they're guilty of fetishism, but it's
whatever it is, they're guilty of a big
they're guilty sin. And it's a serious crime, and they're punished with the most serious punishment. Okay. I mean, but not everybody gets punished that way. Just a few.
In fact, a relatively small number. In this massive people, only 3,000.
5%.
So maybe this is a worse look. Everybody here is going to die here. They're just not going to die tomorrow. They're going to die over the course of the next 38 years.
But they were going to die anyway. Here's the thing.
Okay.
Well, it says you.
So this is actually, the book of Numbers, I will humbly suggest, is definitely one of the 5 best books of the Torah.
Okay.
But the book of Numbers, there's a kind of a relentless, and it so happens that we get it, in the summertime, and it's hot, and it's, long, and you get the feeling of the sort of relentless, frustrating journey that does emerge out of here. I want to suggest that the golden calf is religiously the most important sin, and it is associated with the smashing of the tablets, and that is the demonic power, or the not to be dualistic here, but that's the power of evil in that story. In this one, it seems like what we're at is just a story of deep human failing, real failing, and that's kind of natural, because we are sometimes going to be. I think this describes maybe the spies are just like negativity, and they're just breaking windows for the sake of breaking windows. They just want to say no. But you could also read it as a kind of with a little bit of an ayin tova, a little bit of a generous hermeneutic interpretation, to say they were just afraid and they were unconfident, and that emerges in that great line. Well,
grasshoppers. Yeah.
We seemed like bugs compared to all these big, strong people. And so in our own eyes, we felt like bugs, and we must have been bugs in their eyes too. They just don't think they can. And the power of Kalev, and actually Yehoshua doesn't really get a speaking role in this scene. Kalev says, Yachol Nuchala, oh yes, we can. He's Barack Obama. He comes along and says, yes, we can, when nobody else thinks you can. But that's like a message of, you understand if people say, I just don't think we can. I just,
All right, let
discouragement
me ask
is
it
the
this
better
in
part
this
about
way,
it.
and I know we're running out of time
And then
here.
the punishment is not so bad. It just means that you are natural people who will naturally die over the course of time. And when it's time to actually do something that is not so ordinary and natural, your children are going to be those people.
Right. But I
Which
think that I think that's a little bit too dismissive of the weight of the punishment, because their journey began with a goal in mind and almost in sight, to enter this land of promise. And now they're being told that they're never going to get there. And that must be an excruciating burden to bear, knowing every day you wake up,
you're not
you're
going to,
no closer to your goal than you were the day before.
right. So I want to ask it this way, which is, which story captivates Judaism, the imagination of Judaism, deeper? Or can we even compare the way that the golden calf plays itself out in later Judaism and Jewish ritual, i.e. Yom Kippur, versus the way that the 10 spies or this debacle plays itself out in Judaism? So I offer my answer, which is I think the story of the spies plays itself out daily in Judaism, because we make a minyan. And the minyan, at least the derivative of 10 in a minyan, is
Mhm.
derived from Edah. Edah, they're 10 spies, and notice that they are a bad Edah. They're an evil
So
Edah.
are many of the minyanim that I go to.
Indeed. I love my minyan. But what I'm saying is that on the deepest level, we are reenacting through counting a minyan the idea of the formation of a cohort that has to fix itself. So
So,
it's playing itself out on a daily
all
basis.
right. So you're suggesting, I think, quite powerfully, that our minyan redeems the 10 spies.
It's like saying nothing will redeem it except in perpetuity. You have to assemble 10 men, 10 people, right? And every day you'll have an echo of this that you will try and redeem, but it's irredeemable.
There's another. First of all, that's an awesome read. That's beautiful, and will aid in your kavanah. There's a in the Jerusalem Talmud. There's a different derivation of why there's 10. It's the Benjamin is back with Yaakov. Yosef is already in Mitzrayim. The 10 brothers who come to Egypt looking for food.
Oh, nice.
Which
Okay,
which I feel like that one's another great derivation, because here you are,
sure.
you're talking about people trying to be brothers and trying to come through in a crisis.
Nice.
But I want to point out also that unsurprisingly, the God of this story gets very, very mad and says, "That's it. I'm done with them. Moshe, you're my guy. We're going to start all over." Moshe and says, as he always does, "No, no, no." In the rabbinic imagination, Moses says, "Moses, it's not worth one fingernail of the wonderfulness of these people. You can't turn them away. And besides, what will the Egyptians say?" And in the way it goes in here in the story, um, let me find the verse. Um, Moses says, um, I'm in chapter 14, verse 17. Let your might be great, O Lord, as you have told us. And Moses
Recite.
rehearses or recites basically the 13 midot, not exactly as they appeared in Exodus, but you are long-suffering, great of kindness, you forgive sin, you don't totally forgive it, because you do visit it on later generations, but please, slachna lavon hazeh kegodel chasdecha, please forgive this terrible sin, slachna lavon ha'am hazeh, this people's sin, kegodel chasdecha, in accordance with the greatness of your kindness, as you have in fact forgiven us and led us through, since Egypt. And God says, "Indeed, I have pardoned as you have asked." Well, that is the climax of the Kol Nidre the beginning of the Kol Nidre passage. So I think that this passage, emerges in its fullness religiously at Yom Kippur, because what are we doing? We are recognizing, maybe not our golden calf behavior throughout the year. Maybe we haven't totally betrayed God and become converted to Zeus worshippers or something, but we have failed a lot. We've had a lot of failures of nerve. We've had a lot of failures of vision. We've had, we've said bad things. So every Yom Kippur, you say, okay, I'm here. I'm showing up. I'm one of the 10 spies. Please forgive me. And then we start off, and Yom Kippur starts off. We already say, Salachti kidvarecha. Okay, you're forgiven.
Look, I think it's such a great note to leave on, the note of forgiveness, and the note that there is a potential for the redemption of the people that's kind of embedded in the religious narrative of Jewish life. We live with the story. We live inside the story. We live with the story. It's part of us on a constant basis, as are our friends at Camp Ramah, the Berkshires, and everyone who's been watching us and listening to us. We are so thrilled and honored that you spent this time with us. Thank you so much. We're up to 200 and something listens, not to mention the hundreds of people who are listening to this on the radio or on the PA system at Camp Ramah. Hundreds and hundreds of listeners. On behalf of all of us, we want to say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And see you next week on the next edition of Parsha Talk. Shabbat Shalom. Bye-bye.